Hello wonderful people, welcome back to Dark Souls Remastered. Today I'll be showcasing my killer Sorcerer build. But before I do that, I just want to let you know that it's been confirmed that From Software, the creators of Dark Souls, will be attending E3 on Monday. That's super awesome news. The community has been wondering what From Software has been up to since the release of Dark Souls 3, especially when Miyazaki kinda confirmed that Dark Souls 3 will be the last installment in the Dark Souls series. So we were really eager to find out what their next game will be. Well, the wait is almost over. We will find out very soon and expect a ton of news coming out this week regarding this new game they're creating. So, okay, let's jump back to Dark Souls Remastered and talk about this killer Sorcerer build. So let me start by saying that sorceries in Dark Souls 1 are extremely strong. Especially in PvE, it makes the game much easier than playing with just a weapon, a physical weapon or whatever weapon you're using. It just makes it way easier because you can target the enemies from range, you can play safely, and they do a ton of damage. It really makes the game much easier. In PvP, it's a different ball game. It's still extremely strong, but it depends on the build. Of course, there are many different builds for sorceries, and today I'll be showcasing mine. And I do believe you can make a very viable sorcerer build very low level. Like level 50, you'll have a really good sorcerer build. But at that level, you usually play against noobs or against twinks, and it's fun sometimes to do low-level invasions, but if you want to play with the proper players, or at least players who have a proper build, you should go at least level 100 in my opinion. So let me show you the build. I'm level 120. I have 45 vitality. That's a given because sorcerers are already very squishy, so your survival rate is already very low. So at least try to up your vitality as much as possible. I think you should go with minimum of 40 in my opinion, because you do want to survive at least a couple of hits, because you do die very quickly. And then we have 23 attunement slots. The reason for that, so we can have 6 attunement slots. I think that's really good. If you want to go for 7, I think you go 30 attunements. I don't think that's worth it unless you're going high level and you want to get many spells through New Game Plus. And you can also go with 5. I think that's fine. I think that's very viable. 6 is a bit extra, I think. Maybe if you wanted 2 dark beads spells, it's good to go 6. And then I have 40 endurance, because of course you want to be able to dodge and run and all that as much as possible. I think you can go lower than that. It's possible if you want to do something else with your sorcerer build. But I think 40 is ideal. Of course, over 40 you won't get any extra stamina. You only get equip load, so it's not worth it to go over 40. But we do need it a bit because we are not using any of the equip load rings. So I think it's important. Then we have 16 strength. That's in order to wield the Moonlight Greatsword. Of course, I'm pretty sure you should know that. If you're new to Dark Souls, well, welcome to Dark Souls. Moonlight Greatsword is usually always with sorceries. Not usually, it's always with sorceries. And then I have 14 dexterity. The reason for that is so I can use the Chaos Rapier and also use the Shotel, which I think is extremely important in this game. Shotel is a weapon that makes you go through shields with its heavy attack, and that's why I have 14 dex. Resistance, the most important stat in the game. It's 12. Of course, I'm joking. Never ever level up resistance. Actually, it's a disgrace that they kept this stat in Dark Souls Remastered, but hey. Intelligence, 45, of course, that's because we want as much damage as we can with our sorceries. But yeah, I forgot to tell you another thing about the sorceries actually at the endurance section, is that sorceries don't consume any stamina, which is actually unique for Dark Souls Remastered. In Dark Souls 2 and 3, they do actually use a lot of stamina. So you can spam them as much as you like and you can still roll after that many times. So that's pretty good. But yeah, 45 intelligence. Why is that? First of all, our catalyst, so the staff that we're going to be using is Logan's catalyst, and it shines between 41 and 45 intelligence. After that, you don't get that much damage. So 45 is the perfect magic adjustment for the Logan staff or catalyst. So that's a perfect. That's perfect. 45, really good. You can actually go lower than that and maybe use the tin, the catalyst, or maybe go 50 if you want to use that spell, the Dragon's breath spell, but I don't think it's worth it, to be honest. And another reason for going for 45, because at 44 you can use the Crystal Soul Spear, which is extremely powerful, especially when you have multiple copies. And then I have 8 Faith. Well, of course, I didn't upgrade that because I didn't level that because I'm not using Faith at all. Although I'm gonna do a build very soon that actually is a Sorcerer build, but with a bit of Faith. And it's pretty disgusting build, but we'll talk about that once I do that video. So let's talk about the rings, which I think is one of the most important aspects of this build. Very, very important. I'm pretty sure you noticed right off the bat that I'm actually not using the Ring of Favor and Protection, which is usually a given ring or Havel's ring. And I do think they're very important for most builds, but I think when you're a Sorcerer, you must sacrifice these rings. And I think they are... It's a disadvantage not using them, but at the same time you gain way more, I think, by not using them. So the Bellowing Dragon Crest ring, we use that because it increases sorceries by 20%, increases damage. That's a given, very important ring. And then this ring is a Darkwood Grain ring. And the reason for that is, of course, we need to be very agile because we die very quickly. Even with 45 vitality, we do die very quickly. So we do need to dodge as much as possible. But that's not the only reason. I think you have to also put the rings, you have to, put them in order of the rings you're using. And you should have the Wolf ring, the Hornet ring, and the Red Tear Stone ring, and you can switch that on the fly. So for example, if I see a fast weapon user, I'll just go Wolf ring. And that is extremely important. I cannot stress that enough. You have to be able to go to the menu and change rings at will. If you want to escape, like a gank scenario, Darkwood Grain ring is really good. If I'm low health and I have nowhere to go, I can put the Red Tear Stone ring. Maybe I'll flip the situation because of the extra damage, because Red Tear Stone ring increases damage when you have low HP. And of course the Hornet ring when you want to go all try hard. And you can change the Bellowing Dragon Crest ring if your spells have ran out, or you notice somebody's using, let's say, Great Magic Barrier, so they don't take any magic damage. You just use Hornet ring and Darkwood Grain ring. It gives you a ton of variety. I think it's worth it to sacrifice the Ring of Favor and Protection in order to have this adaptability. You can adapt to the situations, and of course your armor complements that. First, we have the Crown of Dusk. This also increases sorceries by 20%. So this stacks with Bellowing Dragon Crest ring, and both of those items, so the Crown of Dusk and Bellowing Dragon Crest ring, also affect pyromancies, which is really cool, and the Crown of Dusk also affects miracles. And then if you noticed, if we look at our total poise, we have 13 poise. And the reason for that, I'm using the Hollow Soldier Waistcloth. This is one of the best items in the game. It looks like shit, but it just weighs 1.5 and it gives you 7 poise. There's nothing really like it in the game. It's really good when it comes to poise, and because of Ornstein's gauntlets. Now you can change that, but have a total of 13 or maybe 15, one of those. I couldn't hit the 15 mark, and the reason for that is when I go to the Wolf ring, so when I see somebody using a fast weapon, or even if I'm in a gank and I find myself that I might be stun locked to death pretty easily, even if I try to toggle escape, I go for the Wolf ring and now have 53 poise. 53 poise is the sweet spot for poising through great swords. So you can poise almost all the weapons in the game other than ultra great swords and the great axes, the great hammers. Of course, you don't want to get hit by that anyways because you'll be dead. And they're pretty slow, so you shouldn't get hit by those anyway. But 53 is pretty good. I tried to hit the 56 mark, or 55, which makes you also poise through the running attack of the great swords. I couldn't do that, but hey, you can't have everything in every build. And also, anyways, I wasn't using these items really, this waistcloth in my video clips that I'm just showing, because it looks like shit, to be honest. Dinghy Rope, +9, doesn't have any poise, but has perfect defense for a fast, it's pretty light armor, so it's pretty good. It's really good. I like how it looks. I think there are other alternatives, but it's good until now. We also have the Pyromancy Flame, and I know we are a Sorcerer build, but I do think that it's extremely important to have some pyromancies, especially the Black Flame or the Great Combustion. The reason for that is because sorceries are very good from range. Medium range, long range. You do have Dark Bead for close range, but that's not enough and it's easily dodged. So I do think you need Black Flame or Great Combustion. Great Combustion does more damage, well, it does less poise damage. It does, I think, 40 poise, while Black Flame does a bit less damage, but has 60 poise damage, does 60 poise damage, and I think this is extremely important, and you can combo it with the sorcery, especially with the homing crystal soul mass. So once they dodge through the spell, you go with the black flame. And it's pretty good because if you have somebody that's wearing a lot of armor, you can stun them very easily, and it does a lot of damage with the Crown of Dusk and Bellowing Dragon Crest Ring. It's extremely dangerous. So another thing that is important for our arsenal are pyromancies, and of course I have also Fire Tempest, which is cool spell. I really like it, and it's only viable in this game. Like in Dark Souls 3 it was trash, to be honest. It was really bad. In Dark Souls 1 it's actually pretty good. You can actually one-shot some people with it. Very good against gankers. It's good next to ledges. You can also spin while you're casting it, so you don't get backstabbed easily. It's a really good spell in many certain situations, but I do like it. But it's easily replaced by other spells, like having another Dark Beat, for example. We also have the Hater Shield plus 14. Very good shield indeed. It just weighs 2, so it's super light, has 100% resistance to physical damage, very important stat, and it has 68 stability at plus 14, which is very good for a light shield. That means you can block consistently against physical damage, of course, and it's pretty good against fire, but other than that it's not that good. But we need lightweight equipment for this build because we're not using any of the equip load rings. We also have the Moonlight Greatsword. That's a given because it's a sorcery build. I do think you can ditch it for like a rapier. And if you look, I also have Lightning Shootel plus 4, just in case if I'm playing against a turtle and maybe they're using the Crest Shield. The Crest Shield is a very good shield against magic that can sometimes shut down magic builds if used correctly. So I have it Lightning because you want another element with you. And I also have Fire Rapier plus 10. The intention here was Chaos plus 5, Chaos Rapier, and I did a mistake and I modified it to plus 10 Fire. I think you can use this as your main weapon and have, more stats to allocate to other things if you want to do another build. And I think it's pretty good if you don't want to use a Greatsword, because Greatsword is very demanding for your endurance, especially as a sorcerer. But I'll do a separate video for the Moonlight Greatsword. I think it deserves that because it's a pretty good, it's not pretty good, it's actually an excellent weapon. And I should be talking about it more once I do that video. I also have the Moonlight Butterfly Horn, a spear. It's not upgraded, but it's pretty good also for sorceries, as it does pure magical damage, just like Moonlight Greatsword. By the way, in Dark Souls 3, the Moonlight Greatsword wasn't pure magic. It was partly magic and partly physical. Of course, it did more magic, but I mean, it was still a split damage weapon. Here, it's pure magic. That means critical attacks do a lot of damage. Moonlight Greatsword. You have this very good advantage while using it. So let's talk about the spells that are associated with this build, because of course spells are the core of this build since we are a sorcerer. First spell I want to talk about is Great Soul Arrow, a very good spell in PvE. The reason for that is because you get 20 casts, you can get it early on, and you can get multiple copies in one playthrough. I think you can get 3. So you get 60 casts, that's crazy if you want, and you can go through any area easy peasy with this spell since you have sustained damage. It's also good when you're like hosting and you're going through an area and you get an invader. You can keep spamming this and it will annoy the invader a lot. And yeah, this spell not good in PvP, but very very good in PvE. The next spell is our Lord and Savior, Dark Beat. Oh, Dark Beat. I did a video lately, my latest video was about Dark Beat, and I got a ton of hate for this video, although it was a joke video really. And I think I talked about that in the past, that balance is not necessarily means fun. And I do think this spell is unbalanced in terms of damage. It just one-shots most players in the game. It 3-shots like Gwen, the last boss in the game, which is crazy. It's a very very strong spell, but I do think it's had a spot in this game. Since there's a lot of other things that are unbalanced, and I do think balance doesn't mean fun. In this game, this game is super fun, very exciting, yet it's not very balanced. So balance doesn't mean necessarily fun, and it does have a spot in this game. And it's actually counterable. It's not that difficult to dodge, especially with Dark with Brain Ring. And then you have Great Magic Barrier, which shuts it down totally. But you need to be a Faith caster for that. You have to be a miracle-based character, so not everybody's like that. But I mean, you can dodge it. But still a very strong spell, and when people see that spell, they are scared, okay? When they see it, they're very cautious. They don't want to come close to you because it can one-shot them at any time. And it becomes extremely dangerous once you have two copies of the spell. Once you go to NG+, you become very dangerous because you have a lot of casting for the spell. and it one-shots most people. So yeah, you have to be scared. So Dark Bead is a must for Sorcerer builds. And I do think, as I said, that it's unbalanced, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you cannot counter it. It's actually easily countered, but once you have lag, well, good luck when you see Dark Bead. Good luck. My strategy while using Dark Bead is to use it last resort, or usually keep it until the end, because you want to surprise your enemies. You don't want them to know that you have this spell. Once you're cornered, usually use the Dark Bead, because usually they run at you blindly, so just spam it and usually they die. So use it smartly, never use it, don't just use Dark Beads exclusively. You have to train your opponent for different rolling times, so you have to use different spells before that, like let's say Soul Spear or Crystal Soul Spear, and they roll that, then you use Dark Bead, let's say. So you have to be smart while using it. Don't spam it, because good players won't fall for this. They won't fall for the Dark Bead. So you want to use it smartly. And yeah, that's it for Dark Bead. Dark Bead is a necessary spell for all sorcerers. The next spell is Crystal Soul Spear. Very good spell all around. Does a tremendous amount of damage, so it's very good against bosses. Very good against players who are running away. Usually, you don't want to spam it in front of a player. It's very easy to dodge. You want to use it while they're running away, or something like that, because you will never hit a good opponent in their face with Crystal Soul Spear. But I think you usually must have it, because there's a lot of invaders in this game, so when you're invading you can have another invader, let the host get busy and the phantoms, and then you just go from the back and just spam Soul Spear or Crystal Soul Spear and they're dead, and then you can one-shot people like Dark Bead with it. And it's an extremely dangerous spell, and you must have this spell, I think, when you're playing a sorcerer, and it becomes more dangerous once you have 2 copies of this. So once you go NG plus and you get another copy, oh dear lord, nothing can stand in your way after that in PvE. The next spell is Homing Crystal Soul Mass. One of the cheapest spells in the Dark Souls series in my opinion. I never liked this spell in any of the Dark Souls games, and it's cheapest here in Dark Souls 1 since it does the most damage here. It's ridiculous, to be honest, because it needs no effort. You just spam it and you use it, and it kills people one shot. If you get them, you get the whole thing on them. And you can control when to actually use the spell. If you keep your back on your opponent, it never actually triggers. So then you go 180, surprise them, and they're dead. And if they dodge, you can follow up with a Black Flame or Dark Bead. So it's a very good combo starter. Very good. Nobody comes close to you once you use it. They get scared. They don't come for the backstab or anything like that, because it's a dangerous spell. And there's also a glitch which I believe is still in the remastered. If you use this spell before an invader comes to your world, and once they invade, they actually can't see it. So they just run at you and then they're dead. And actually I did it here. I did it multiple times where I was using it and then somebody invaded, and I wanted to see if they noticed that it was there, and it seems that they did not. So this glitch is still existing in this game, and the same is for Pursuers, by the way. So yeah, Homing Crystal Soul Mass, very cheap spell, but a necessary spell for sorcerers. So yeah, the other alternative is of course Pursuers. And to get that, you give Manus' soul to the crow. You trade that with them, and you get the Pursuers. Oh man, I never forget the first day I saw the Pursuers back in the original game. It's scary, man, when you see Pursuers. I'm not using it at the moment in this build, but I did use it multiple times. The reason it just has 3 casts and takes 2 attunement slots, so it's very demanding. And if you have 2 copies, it's gonna take 4 attunement slots. So I think you need to be pretty high level to use it in PvE. When PvP is very dangerous, even with 3 casts, because it is very determined spell. I never seen a spell that determined. It's actually hinted in the description that it has a will, and it will never stop from getting that, or something along those lines. But this spell is crazy. Pursuers can one-shot, okay? And even if they dodged it, it will keep following them and keep following them, and it's very erratic and unpredictable. So a pretty good spell that you can put, you can ditch the Great Soul Spear and let's say Great Soul Arrow and Crystal Soul Spear and put that instead. But I do think Homing Crystal Soul Mass is more practical because you get 10 casts. So it's up to you, it comes back to your preference, but Pursuers is a very dangerous spell. Everybody knows that. And I do think it was even stronger when it was first released in the original game. So yeah, Pursuers, a ridiculous spell that you can use as well. So this is all the spells and equipment involved with this build. And this is a showcase. And actually, I haven't done an unscripted video in a long while, and I will be doing a much more detailed video for sorceries like Dark Souls 3 style, you know, quality video and more scripted and better editing. And I've actually started doing multiple videos that way, but it's just taking way more time, and that's unfortunate. But there will be many videos coming soon. And of course, we're gonna have news also about the new game from Software, so we're also gonna be talking about that. So let me know what you think about my unscripted videos like this one. Should I do more of them? Like this style of videos? I'll make like this video, which I consider like informal, then do like a proper good video that is more formal and more digestible, I guess. So let me know what you think about this. Also, if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe. And yeah, that's all for this video, my fellow undead. I will see you in my next video. Farewell, my friends. Bye-bye.